Nelson Camp, I want to thank you for joining me on 6 for 6. This is the sixth interview that I've done over the last 60 days throughout the COVID-19 crisis.
Thanks, and thanks for doing this, Darrell, because there's a lot of people out there that are looking for encouragement. And, I've seen some of your other episodes that have been great to give people, thoughts, right? Different ways of looking at things and grasping on to what somebody else has been able to kind of figure out, and that encourages someone else, and there's just a chain reaction there that happens. So what an awesome project you've done. I think this is really cool.
Good, thank you, and thanks for watching. There's so many things that I've learned from you, and I appreciate about you, and I think that how you and I have been talking throughout this pandemic, I really respect and admire just how you've decided to approach it. And I think we can all learn from other people. And so why don't you just talk about leading up, just what was life like leading up to the pandemic before we, got shut down, and then we can maybe just talk about how things transitioned then, like what were the daily tasks and activities look like, and maybe somebody relates to that.
Sure. Yeah. I think even I'm going to preface that question maybe by saying that sometimes we don't even know what leads up to something until after it's done.
Yeah.
And then we have a sense of, the chance to look back and say, okay, what was happening at that point? Life is always busy, and we're really in the moment so often that we don't have a chance to look back. So, I think all of us, everybody had a certain type of routine going before all of this happened, and everybody to a certain extent had some type of interruption, right? Something changed or something was affected, and there's new variables thrown in, and there's certain elements that were taken out of what you were able to do before that you weren't able to do before. And some people, it was for creating income. A lot of business owners struggled with this, right? Some people, it was going to the gym because they couldn't go to the gym anymore, and that was their thing. And, I can look at myself and my life and stuff, but I like to take a look at the big picture of what happened all around me to friends and family. And sometimes we're so focused on thinking about, what happened to me and everything, but we forget that we're part of everybody else's life around us as well. And, those can be closer connections or further connections. But taking the time to think about, what is this individual going through right now? And I think that was something for me further along that I realized more and more, what does this person need right now? What has changed in their life that I can offer them, whether it's a word of encouragement, whether it's, offering to pay for something, picking up some groceries for somebody who maybe, was too frightened to get out of the house, or they had health concerns or something. Maybe it was just spending time at a distance from somebody who was living alone and they weren't able to connect with anybody. So, from the beginning to the end, I think there was a lot of transitions that happened during this process. At the beginning, a lot of people, it was almost like a mourning process. There was like a denial. This isn't happening, right? It's not really happening. And then people got laid off or they lost their jobs, and there was a lot of difficulty in the acceptance part. So, as people went through, and, I think a lot of us were trying to get our information from everywhere. Personally, I had to shut down my social media at a certain point because I realized more and more what was happening is I felt personally the media was feeding into sort of a position of fear. And I like to live my life from a position of faith and confidence. And what worked for me was simply just removing my social media during the day altogether. And I'd download the apps maybe in the evening, in the morning for a few minutes, and then put it away for the day and focus on right where I was in my season. It was a different transition from the beginning. Kids are at school, we're playing soccer, all these things are taking place. And then all of a sudden everything kind of comes to a halt. And then we have a new life that we create for ourselves within this small bubble of time, which too shall pass. But it was a good opportunity to really grow things that maybe hadn't been grown for a long time. And that's what I really focused on in my family. You asked what life looked like going in. Well, it was really scheduled. You know, we knew every day the kids would be coming home at a certain time. We'd do homework. There'd be meal time. We'd be going to evening activities, homework. And a lot of those things got changed in the last period of time. And some of it I missed. Some of that structure I really enjoyed. For me as a business owner myself, generally my time to work was during the day when the kids were at work or at school. That was my time to be able to get some things done. And when I had to accept the fact that that was sort of taken away with the kids being home, I as you know, I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for 20 years. I had the honor of teaching them again, right? And I got to teach them a lot of things that they're not learning in school, about financial literacy and managing resource and generosity and giving and different humanitarian projects that, you know, have happened throughout the world, and what would we like to do as a family in the future, and brainstorm some of these things that, you know, life doesn't always give you the time to do. And so I think a lot of what took place really changed me. I hope it changed my kids and my wife. You know, there was a lot of opportunities, even to think, you know, sometimes in life we're going, and we're in the moment that we don't even take the time to think. And I'm sure, Darrell, you do this often too. You probably write down your goals and your dreams in life, right? And what are your plans? And my wife and I have been doing this for years. I have a book. It's just kind of this torn up book that says Dream Big. And I've had this for over 10 years now. And I just, once a year, we'll go write our goals for the next year in here. We'll write it out. And it's just a notebook that I had at one point, and we started writing in it. And every year, you know, we go in there, we write our goals and what our dreams are for the future. And we always kind of operate from a place of the 5 F's in life, right? We try to get our faith and our spirituality in order. What do we believe fundamentally as people and human beings? Why are we here? What can we do to help others? And then we kind of, you know, slide after the faith into the fitness. Are we taking care of our bodies? Because if we don't do that, we can't really help anybody else in life, right? And after we get into the fitness, we got to look at our families. Are we caring and loving on our families and growing that? And then we get into a place of looking at, well, what are your finance? You know, you need finance, like it or not, that's part of life. And then the 5th F that we look at is fun. And so we try to set our goals based on those 5 F's every year. And, you know, we took the time to look back through the book and all of the different years. It's been years, 10 years, 11 years. And we just realized that, you know, through a lot of these things, these plans, these goals we had in the past, they weren't just dreams anymore. They're things that came to pass along the way. And Darrell, I got to tell you, that time to reflect upon that and look at that was precious. It really, really was. That time to take a moment to kind of breathe and look back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't always see it in the day-to-day grind, right? We don't always see the needle moving forward. But it's precious when we take that time to appreciate how far we've come. But our own biases are a crazy thing, right? It's you know, if you're looking for something, you find it, right?
Yeah.
We can just sit on that for a second. If you look for something, you're gonna find it, right? If I take the time to look at, you know, in your example, if I take the time to look at all the things that came to pass that I planned. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I know how I feel about it, but man, it probably feels pretty good. And it's energizing, and it's encouraging about what can we do for the future? How much more, how further can we go? How higher can we jump? And that stuff may sound hokey and it may sound kind of corny, but the reality is, if we're able to motivate ourselves, you know, sky is the limit. You know, certainly we're going to get a lot farther than if we were depressed and upset and frustrated by what we haven't done. Not that it wasn't there, but because we didn't take time to realize it and reflect on it and encourage ourselves. So I think that's beautiful, man, that you had a chance to do that and that you've kept track of it and that became a family activity.
Yeah, and I think that that's what I really enjoyed about the time, is to be able to do things like that and look through it with the kids as well and include them in that. So they can say, hey, this was before you were born, what we wrote down here. We were talking about you before you were even born. And I think that stuff like that is just valuable to the kids so that they see their value and they can see bigger than themselves. They can see the community and their role in helping others, and their role on the planet is bigger than just, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to play my sports, I'm going to get a job one day and make money. And all those things are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that those things aren't important, but it gives them an opportunity to kind of think bigger. What is the big dream that I have? What is it that I want to accomplish? And, there's many studies that have been done about people that write down their goals, and you're much more likely to have things happen in life by writing it down. And that's what I've been trying to push as a message to a lot of people during this period of time too, is take the time to write down what's going to come out of this.
Yeah.
Right? How are you going to be changed from all of this? How are you going to be different because you had an opportunity to go through this? And, I think we have to be honest here, perfectly honest. A lot of people are going to be picking up some negative things that took place during this period of time. We're both wise enough to know there's addictions and all kinds of other things that have happened, and depression during this period. But I'm choosing to believe that there's a lot of great things that have happened too. People that have taken the time, there's so many places that offered free courses, free learning opportunities. People were reading more than they've read before. And, all of those things put together, I think is an opportunity. Oh, sorry, my cat's on the...
So wants to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, the cat was getting on the keyboard. It's just an opportunity for us to see, what is on the other side, and what have I learned from this period of time. And for us, it's been a period of where are we going to come out on the other side. I pulled out this dream book and started writing down, well, on the other side of this, where are we going to be? So that we're orchestrating it. I don't want to just come out on the other side and roll the dice and, hey, let's see what happens.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And a certain amount of that is we don't know what's going to happen, but I think you can plan for the unknown. And I've built my entire business all my life on variables, right? What will happen if? What is the best case scenario? What is the worst case scenario? And if I'm comfortable living with the worst case scenario, I make a decision to move forward. And that's the way I've always run my business. And this opportunity has given me more of a chance to do that, coming out on the other side of this. What could be the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? And what can I do for myself? The message I can encourage others to do in their preparation. That part has been huge too, taking the time to really think about that. It's been something important as we've been progressing through the different stages, and now we're getting closer to the tail end where the economy is starting to open up a little bit more, which is great, at a very reasonable pace. What is it going to look like now on the other side? So I think that's been really sort of the progress and process for me as I've gone through this.
Yeah, Nelson, as you described the process that you went through during the pandemic and the shutdown, and the time at home, and the time to reflect and with your family and by yourself. So the process is one thing, but mindset is another thing. And I want to dig in a little bit on a word that you said. You said, I choose to believe, right? I choose to believe. And that sounds kind of Pollyanna, right? It could sound kind of Pollyanna. It doesn't sound to me, but it could sound Pollyanna to someone who maybe hasn't had hasn't had the positive feedback from making the choice to believe, right? And then you get that positive feedback, and then that feedback loop creates more action, right? And we know how that goes. Mm-hmm. What words of encouragement could you give someone who hasn't had that positive experience to be able to say, I have a choice. I can see these facts in front of me. the facts are undeniable, right? There were some awful things that happened to people's businesses, their personal lives, their situations that is going to change them coming out, right? And those are facts, but there's facts on the other side too. Mm-hmm. that you shared, from your point of view, from your experience and what you're living, and there's those facts out there. So how do you reconcile the fact that you choose to believe without ignoring or minimizing the other side of the facts? What does that look like in your world?
I think a lot of it for me has been really trying to extend grace to people in a sense that, everybody's at a different place right now. And, I sort of alluded to this earlier. If you can give people a word of encouragement at where they're at, sometimes that's what your role is in that moment. We've been in a very fortunate position where there hasn't really been any effect on our business because of this whole shutdown and COVID. As a matter of fact, we're coming out significantly stronger than we did on the way in. And I don't say that lightly. I do recognize the value in that, and I recognize the value in how we can bring value to others because of that. And it's really recognizing that a lot of people have to make a choice. Lots of people are realizing more and more the value of entrepreneurship now. A lot of employers are going to recognize that they actually didn't need an office space for their teams. They're going to realize that people have been working from home and producing. They're going to realize that people can complete tasks when they're assigned tasks more than, for example, being paid by the hour. And I think we're going to see a shift in the way things work in the workplace, and I don't think that's going to go away. I think we're going to see a change in the way people look at, are you billed by the hour or are you billed by the task? And more, we're going to see a shift in that direction as people recognize that there's assignable tasks to do within any organization as systems are put in place. And if people are paid more for the systems and the tasks than the hours, take a simple example. Someone has a report, they're assigned to write a report. And if they're paid by the hour, that can take a day or it can take 7 days or 10 days. But that doesn't really change the report that's created. And I think when there's a sense of urgency and you give somebody that responsibility and say, I want you to run with this. This is your task. And someone gets that ownership of it. It gives them a bigger role to play in whatever they're doing. It gives them a sense of ownership on that job, that task that's theirs. And I think that's going to stick with a lot more people on the other side of this. I think people are going to have to choose every day to make a decision and say, hey, how am I going to approach today? Mm-hmm. And that can be someone who's coming from being laid off and having no job and saying, well, what am I going to do today? Because I have today to make a choice, right? What do I want? What have I not been doing for the last 10 years or 20 years that I wish I would have been? I want to hear people saying that and making those decisions now. I would love to see people pursue their dreams and recognize that there's a way in almost every type of passion or dream to be successful in a position where you're not just going to a job as much as you're doing what you love and you love what you're doing and you're making that decision every day to live that way. Mm-hmm. And I really hope that sticks after this is done, that more and more people recognize that there's a place for them to create their place in the economy rather than just fill a position in a job, but they'll find themselves a place in the economy as well. And you said, what are people choosing? Well, I think we're going to see more and more of that as people choose what they want. We're going to see reduced hours and people maybe only working 4 days a week or 3 days a week as workplaces recognize they don't need those spaces filled as much. The online world was already exploding at an exponential rate. It's only going to grow more now. And so people are going to have to choose every single day, what is my position for today? What am I doing? And more, I think we're going to see side hustles, right? When people are recognizing their passion, there's a marketable value to it. Even if it's not their job and they're going to continue working on their job. One thing that came out of the pandemic is I was able to finish my 4th book, Lifestyle by Design. And it's basically about how to reverse engineer your life and design the life that you've always wanted by creating yourself financial independence, so that you don't need to be held down in a job. And I think more and more people are going to realize that through a side hustle and a passion of something that they enjoy doing, there's a marketable value in doing that. And I talk about that significantly in the book. I would love to see that happen to a lot more people, Darrell.
I think it's a great vision, and one thing I appreciate, your perspective is from both sides of the economy. One, being employed as a teacher, right, for 20 years, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, your master's of counseling.
Education, counseling psychology.
Master's of counseling and psychology. So that's 20 years within the system, viewing it that way. And then you retired yourself from teaching as a real estate investor. I hope that's okay for me to say. And are mentoring and coaching other individuals to do the same. So you see it from that perspective. It's not one or the other, it's both. And there's a clear one that you promote and advocate and champion. So I appreciate your insight and your perspective on that, especially having lived in both of those worlds.
Yeah, it's just I think a mind shift, and you talked about the mindset part earlier, and it's almost like a paradigm shift when people have to think a little bit differently. And that's what happened to me when I transitioned from being more of an employee to being, an independent business owner and an investor. I realized there's $10 an hour tasks, and I was doing some of those, and then I realized there's a lot of $1,000 an hour tasks. And as the mind shift changes and you focus on the higher level tasks, without getting into my whole book that I wrote, I'd love for anyone who's listening to this to get a chance to read it if they're more interested. But it gives an opportunity to be able to really leverage your time to the best of your ability in creating passive income. And for those that don't know what passive income is, that's when you're creating income without trading any of your time. So you're not going to a job, you're not actually completing a task that needs to be done. It's a continuous form of revenue that comes in without working for it. And as more and more people see that there's high level tasks in any type of job, it doesn't matter where you're at, focusing on those higher value items will bring more value if you're an employee to your boss, to your organization that you work for, if you've got a side hustle, if you're an entrepreneur yourself, focusing on those super high level tasks. That was a big part of the transition for me from when I did work as a teacher. And please understand, I loved being a teacher. I never disliked my job. I always enjoyed what I did. And that's why I still to this day enjoy and love teaching people that are open and ready to learn. But it's definitely a different world coming out on the other side of this. And I think that natural progression is going to be happening more and more.
Yeah, that idea, like you said, of people taking on entrepreneurism and finding what some of their passions are and figuring out how to monetize it and help other people. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So Nelson, this is not uncommon. Our conversation. This is very very natural and relatable conversation to other ones that we have. And just like that like the time goes by fast. I want to give you the last word. Again, someone watching this that just stumbled on the video and has a ton of great information. What's one message that you would want to leave someone that is watching this with? And then if you would finish off by letting people know how they can get a hold of you if they want to find out more about your book. We'll put the links in the posts as well, or reach out to you. You can finish with those handles as well.
Sure. Time flies when we're together, and I always look forward to every opportunity we have to hang out, my friend. And thanks again for inviting me today. Really enjoyed it. I think one of the messages that I would encourage people to do is the difference I see very often between people living a life where they wish they could be somewhere, or they're creating what they want and they're actually there, is generally they write down their goals. of what they really want to see in their life. And I mean, really write down those goals. Not something as simple as I want to be rich, right? But I'm talking about SMART goals and recognizing in 5 years, I would like to be financially independent from my job by having recreated passive income through investment in real estate that is the equal type of income to what I was making from my job, right? When we see goals like that are very specific and people are reading them every single day and taking action, that's the second one. Have your goals and then have your actionable steps for whatever you want to do in life, whether it be your faith, your fitness, your family, your finances, or more fun in your life. If you have actionable steps and consistently, habitually take action towards those goals that you have written down, you have a recipe for success in anything in life. And with everybody I've ever worked with and mentored and seen succeed in life, those ingredients are consistently in the recipe. They have goals and they take determined action day in and day out towards achieving what they want out of life. So I think those are probably the two things that I'd love people to take away from this. And if anybody does want to get in touch with me, my website is nelsoncamp.ca, or you can even go nelsoncamp.com. They both lead to the same place. Easy to get in touch. I'm also on social media, Instagram, Facebook. And I love to see people win and succeed. And you're definitely in that winner circle, Darrell. You're amazing for having put this together. And, just taking the time during all of this and for you to say, hey, I want to stop right now during this pandemic and see how I can encourage other people. And, creating these interviews and interviewing people to see how you can find encouragement for others. I just want to honor that because I think that was an amazing initiative that you did.
Well, thank you, man. And thank you for contributing to that and being 6 for 6. I will let you get on to your busy day with your family. I'll get on to mine and round up these guys to go outside and jump in the pool here for a bit. But thanks again for making the time, Nelson. Really appreciate the takeaways at the end, man. Appreciate your friendship. And we'll be talking to you probably later tonight.
All right. Take care, amigo. See you.
All right. Bye for now.